Good. Okay, so to getting us started, David Carlisle is noting that Firefox will support reading tagged PDFs on February the 24th. That is very exciting.
Yeah, it works quite well. We're hoping it'll work on Mac and Linux and things. So my attempt to make it work with Orca wasn't very successful, but certainly in Windows it's quite nice. So it's not really me working on it, except I send them lots of bug reports, which they fixed in days each time. Actually, they're working on it pretty hard.
That's really good, because I think one of the things that has been holding us up is the lack of things.
Yeah, telling people they had to
PDFs.
install some PDF reader they'd never heard of was a bit yeah. And since once that reached alpha, the nightly, which I use in my normal browser, I opened bug reports at Chrome and to tell them to pull their finger out and match. But we'll see what they do.
Yeah, it's really I think a huge step forward, because that means basically once that's there, and then everybody on all platforms can, in some sense, get accessible PDFs from LaTeX without anything extra necessary, and that's great news. And then if we get Chrome as well, that would be just the next step. And I think there's a good chance once Firefox is doing it.
Yeah, excellent. That sounds like momentum too.
Yeah, it is.
Good. Anyone else got anything to add there, or? Okay.
Maybe one word on LaTeX. I haven't written it in that list, but we talked last time, I think, or the time before, about our attempts to get Beamer replacement, and that is doing quite well by now. A lot of people are using it already, so I can only urge people who have to make presentations to check it out, because it's public on the distributions, and even through it so far isn't perfect in the sense of having everything available. It's good enough to actually get your document, your presentations rolling, and a lot of folks, at least in the US, are really sort of on their toes with the upcoming requirements, and so a lot of people are appreciative of this, and I think we will see a lot of momentum there as well.
I just put a link in the chat to, well, not a link. It's LTX talk with the class.
Yeah, so I should have said that again.
No, that's again another useful and interesting update. I guess it might be useful in maybe the next meeting to have a kind of demonstration, maybe, and see how.
Maybe we'll drag Joseph here.
Yeah, we should then, in that case. He can explain all of it and what doesn't work.
Do you allow chemists in this group?
Yeah. It's we say maths, but we really mean STEM in general. So yes, chemists are allowed. Yeah, I will. We can sort that out later. Excellent. Good. Okay, that again sounds like lots of progress. It's exciting. So Bex at LSE has been working on introductory accessible checklist. That sounds really useful. And looking for feedback on drafts. Do you have anything you want to add there?
Yes, just any feedback would be wonderful. Thanks. All of the resources that have been on the page and this working group has been very helpful. But just getting this started for LSE resources. So any feedback would be great. Thank you.
Excellent, cool. And I will stick those links, if you're happy, in the follow-up email, so we can get out to the wider mailing list, if that would be helpful too.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, good. Matt has been working on extending enhancement features to MathFix. Excellent. oh, that's a 70% to 80% accuracy. That's good. Do you have anything to add there, Matt?
Yeah, mainly that. I've been spending a fortune doing multiple tests, different engines, also comparing native PDF OCR capabilities of LLMs against Mistral OCR, and Mistral OCR is just marginally better. And yeah, I've got some. I'm pretty happy with where it is. The next thing is MathPix can state where it thinks there are diagrams in some handwritten maths, and I'm working on lots of solution sheets, and often there's quickly hand-drawn little diagrams on there. So the next step is generating either human alternative text or LLM alternative text, and then getting that into the MathPix Markdown, because MathPix Markdown is going to be my source like file format, because then MathPix has a convert API that then allows you to convert MathPix Markdown to HTML, docx, PowerPoint, PDF, and so on, so into whatever your final format is going to be. But it's very exciting. Probably already said too much than was necessary, and I've added a tiny screenshot into that box of what the enhancement interface looks like at the moment. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Good. And there's links on the website to Matt's website too, so more exploration could be done there. Rachel has been creating guidance on accessible LaTeX and images. Always useful, lots of communication. And encouraging staff to use the Blackboard template. Yes, I'm currently starting having this argument here. And would be interested in recommended tools for checking accessibility. That's always useful. Do you have anything you maybe want to add there, Rachel? Or
yeah, sorry, I've realised I've written quite a lot there. But, a lot of our work at the minute has been around communicating and trying to, make it's not this big scary thing that you've got to now redo all of your content to make it accessible. So we've sort of in looking for the guidance, and I've received so many from this group and from other universities have got so many good resources. So it's sort of linking out to things and providing options, but basically sort of saying, what's your starting point? Do you already have LaTeX notes that you want to convert, or are you starting from scratch? What do you want the notes to achieve? How much time do you have to commit, for example? And then maybe sending people on a route that would be most suitable for them. So it's not just a kind of massive, great big job that just feels insurmountable. So we've been doing quite a bit of sort of communicating that. We're running a workshop next month for anybody, but it's aimed at sort of STEM academics to sort of, we're trying to have it as more of a discussion and a kind of like what approach might work best for you in trying to make your materials accessible. Because I think I'd spent quite a long time not being a maths expert. I'd been thinking, well, there must be one right answer. We must be able to say you do this, this, and this, and then it'll all be fine. And obviously that's not ever going to happen. So it's opening that discussion. And also things, sometimes people are really disheartened by doing the Blackboard Ally check and getting quite a low score because maybe their PDFs aren't accessible, but also looking at other things that aren't quantifiable, things that aren't checkable by Ally, but are really, really helpful for students. So like knowing that everything's always in the same place, making it really clear how to navigate through the learning materials and that kind of thing. So we're concentrating on that side of things as well. But yeah, just as I mentioned at the bottom, people have asked, how do I actually check that this is working? And that's something I've had issues with as well. We've got an MVDA, which I've used to try and read out code and pages and things to see how it works, but I can't seem to get it to work very well. So I don't know whether there's another better way of checking. I can see people are writing in there as well. So
yeah, there are other people suggesting things. That's good. I am not going to go on my usual rant about accessibility checkers.
We could.
But yeah, I think it's also worth remembering those little things. I'm started a new job, and my biggest pick is there's just no consistency, and that makes life harder for everyone too. Just navigating consistency. Good. Anyone else?
If you're having problems with NVDA and LaTeX, you can ping me privately. I've had some experience of that over the last couple of years. So
oh, brilliant! Thank you.
Yeah, you'll find my email if you Google for David Carlisle.
Yeah.
But it's
great. Thank you.
Ben has been grilling Blackboard Ally for improvements to STEM support. Yes. How's it going?
Yeah, how is it going? I feel like we get kind of one step forward, two steps back. I mean, I don't know how other people find it, but there's lots of promises and exciting new developments. But when you try and actually test them in the field, they don't always work. Although not immediately STEM at this point, the handwriting recognition is something that they've been trying to get right. And then from what I understand, STEM will be kind of next in line. But we're getting all sorts of kind of inconsistent results with the handwriting recognition. To be quite honest, I don't think it's ready for consumption, and it feels a tiny bit frustrating that we're doing some of the user testing for them. It's almost like they'd release stuff and then expect the community to do it when it really wasn't fit for purpose. I mean, we just put in some really simple, like a quote from the first line of paragraph of Great Expectations, and it produced stuff that wasn't even words. It's not even like it takes a guess and forms like an English word it was just kind of hieroglyphics. So we've gone back to them and said, what on earth is this? There's also the equation editor conversion, which is marginally better, but it seems to only be able to cope with very simple single line equations at the moment. And I just saw Matt pop up, so he's given up hope with Ally, and I don't think I'm far off, to be honest. So we'll keep nibbling away. I mean, we've sent a sort of 20-page document back with all of our findings and suggestions, so watch this space. But I'd be interested to know if other people are similarly struggling, because just as you've just said, Cordelia, I think Ally's, certainly for things like Moodle, it's still one of the best hopes we've got of kind of mass producing accessibility feedback. I know it's an automated checker, it's very, very blunt as a tool, but it does seem to get people's attention in a way that we struggle to do otherwise. So it would be great if it could be a little bit more accurate and be honest about what it can't do and what it doesn't know, so we don't send anyone down any kind of cul-de-sacs. But yeah, so that's where we are.
Sorry, Matt, you have your hand up. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, just two things. One about Ally. Just one of the tickets that I put in last week was we found that this is more about Ultra rather than Moodle, so Blackboard Ultra with Ally. But if you create, there's two ways of creating equations in Blackboard Ultra in the WYSIWYG. You can paste or write in LaTeX, or you can use the WIRIS equation editor. But Ally will do different things depending on which of those formats you use, and it isn't consistent. So if you use the LaTeX in a document, then in some alternative formats, it just shows the raw LaTeX, doesn't transform it into an equation. And then the reverse, in other formats, it works well with the LaTeX, but not with the WIRIS. So like you said, Ben, I do know that the Ally team and the Ultra team aren't very good at talking with each other. So when one implements something new, the first thing Ally team hear about it is when we put in tickets saying it isn't working. The other is probably the biggest issue that I found in Ultra. Actually, this was yesterday. In not particularly related to STEM, but I'll mention it anyway because it's is that You can add knowledge checks within documents. But if you add more than one knowledge check in a document and you use a screen reader to try to answer that knowledge check, it always gives the first question of text when you get into this, any following knowledge checks. So if you go into the second knowledge check, it will ask you the first question text and then give you the answers from the second question or so on. And that's because they're using the same ID, and IDs in HTML are meant to be unique. They're using the same ID for every knowledge check. So there's an ARIA labeled by, which refers to the ID, and it always refers to the first one. So that also showed me, okay, so they're not validating the HTML that they produce, which is therefore causing these issues. And so my attitude now is, well, if they do something good, that's great, but we can't rely on them. We've got to make our own tools.
Good. Anyone else got anything to mention? I will say thank you to people who A, pursue people, and B, give up and make their own things. Both are useful activities. Lillian has been blogging and writing guidance and doing workshops in typical Lillian fashion. Do you have anything to add, Lillian?
Yeah, we had learning technologists meeting. Our last meeting, we covered quite a bit about learning to navigate with MathJax, to demonstrate to people how accessible maths can be navigated by a screen reader, just using MathJax example. And then some people realizing that if they weren't on the latest version of MathJax, they had a different menu. They maybe couldn't see the math speak or easily copy the code. So it was a good learning point for us. And we I did another demonstration and it's on our recording. So, people have access to kind of look at that or use that to demonstrate to other people about what navigating a huge long equation can be like for someone with a screen reader. But yeah, we talked about having a pool of videos that we can use in our staff sessions as a group. So, as different people work on different things, we might try and collate a pool of little videos so that we don't all have to remake it. And then obviously if we get to that point, we would love to kind of use the Make Things Accessible site, for instance, to host this getting started area. Yeah, so just trying to work between different groups and make sure that we all, join up at some point and not replicate each other's work. Yeah, that's
Excellent. Thank you. On a kind of related note, I'm halfway through taking out all the demos from various meetings we've had and creating one place with all of just the demos. But that's a bit of work, but will be coming soon. Konstantina has her accessibility in Stack seminar this Thursday. Do you want a minute to advertise?
Yes. So I put, hello everyone, I put a link on this document we have there. Yes, it's mainly about the Stack assessment software, which is like plugin for Moodle quiz. So maybe some of you are using it, or maybe you're aware of it. That's my boy, 2-year-old, screaming on top of his voice because he wants to put something else on TV that's from what his sister has on TV. Sorry, that's the live this week. So the seminar is about Stack and also about JISC graphs. And we'll talk about the MathJax used to display mathematics within. Yeah, I don't think he will let me to say anything. Sorry. Yes, so probably it's better to just read the link. Sorry about that.
Right, thank you, Konstantina. So yes, always useful those Stack seminars. Charlotte, also in Edinburgh, is starting the June workshop organisation and doing other workshops. Do you want to say anything, Charlotte, add to that?
I don't think so. I mean, you told well, we've decided that the date will be the 8th of June.
Yeah, that was the most voted upon one.
Thank you for everyone who answered the poll. So yeah, just getting started.
More details to follow, I guess. George is just getting started. We were all once there. I see Lillian's mentioned her the Accessible Maths and Learning Tech group might be good. There's also the website, the kind of getting started bits just been redone with some FAQs. Do you want to kind of say anything, George? Or does anyone else have anything?
I mean, I can just briefly introduce who I'm a lecturer in maths at the University of East Anglia, and we are not doing I want to say anything in line with making maths accessible, right? Like, I mean, some people might think about this, but there was no overarching like policy or drive or anything to do any of this kind of stuff. And so I'm looking into this well, as somebody who also has a bit of a role so my job is split between lecturing in the maths department, and I'm also a widening participation academic lead. And so there is some, there's some reason why I would be interested in this, I guess, but I'm trying to think, well, how can I take my teaching and tweak what I'm doing from just making loads of PDFs and whatever in LaTeX, like what should I be doing instead? And then thinking about how I can then start to communicate this to other people in the department. I guess so far though, I just felt like there's just a million things, and I realized there's not going to be like, here's the obvious, just do this and it's all sorted, right? Like, but like, it just feels like there is help for loads of different things, and I just sort of I've played around with bits and pieces, but I just feel a bit like I have no idea what I should do or where I should focus. That's kind of my kind of problem, I suppose, is just what should I try and do as a starting point with like my notes and my course and so on like that. Yeah.
David, do you want to say something?
I was going to say, are you in walking distance to the chemistry department?
Sure.
The LTX talk class we just mentioned is by Joseph, who's in your institution. So.
Okay. Yeah. Right. I literally just noticed this because I know he's done stuff with Beamer. So I mean, maybe I should start. Well, I mean, he's somebody I can speak to at least, I guess. Yeah.
I think that's always a useful bit to kind of see what's going on, maybe not in your department, but your wider organisation is a good place to start. And speaking to other lecturers, I think there is slightly less support for lecturers than there are, just because there's about 10 trillion other things. But I'd also think about small wins. So things like, is there some consistency in your Blackboard ally or whatever, that the students can just navigate things easily. And then there's kind of the next step of how do you make notes accessible and things like that, which slightly depends on your area of what you're teaching too, and it gets a bit muddled. Does anyone else have any advice or? Okay. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to I think this meeting's a good place to air kind of particular questions occasionally. Vanya has been looking at UJAR Panorama, tagged PDFs. Oh, excellent. More tagged PDFs. Bugs around alt text fixed. Excellent. Improved scores for tagged PDFs. That all sounds like useful updates. Good. Do you have anything to add there, or anyone else?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, this is Vaya, and the only thing to mention here is how positive it is that some third-party like vendors actually do take bugs into consideration and they do something. And of course, that has a very positive impact on actually people getting more enthusiastic about the support and actually using the templates that we provide for them. So yeah, it is all a very nice positive chain of reaction. So I just thought I'd mention it here. It's not just problems. Solutions do come from some places every now and then, which is really great.
Yeah, it's good. There seems to be a good meeting for hearing about solutions. Bit of optimism in February is always good. Good. And then Steph at Birkbeck is looking at audits of publishing platform for journals and preprints. I think you mentioned this at a couple of meetings ago, and internal discussions on equations alt text, which is what we're going to talk about later. Do you have anything to add to that, Steph?
I'm afraid most of my work at the moment isn't maths specific, so I'm just here to keep. Maths was my first love, so this is where I kind of feel at home. We've been talking a lot about alt text. We're about to put in a new alt text system that we've spent a long time trying to get right. We've been looking at not just you need image alt text, but you need alt text that's context specific. So the same image in different places will need different alt text, and how to do that on a database level to make sure the models will support not just a one-to-one relationship, but to have those options. But we came to a conclusion, which would be really interesting to hear what other people thought, that as we're introducing a new system, and a lot of people, we've got to get over the reluctance of people doing it in the first place, we would probably start by introducing them to a one-to-one relationship while having built a system that can do more complex alt text, so that then once they were used to doing it, we then provide the option for doing the more multiple times for each image. But we thought we needed to train people into just doing it in the first place. And the other thing we've been talking about is, because this is all about submission of sort of articles, and there's a lot of peer review. Obviously, peer review is big on that, and where alt text fitted within the peer review process, whether it should be peer reviewed or whether an editor can just add it, or whether an author should just be able to put it, or how that gets controlled and where it fits in the existing processes. So they're more kind of discussions we're having. We haven't got specific answers yet. We're just exploring what might best practice be.
That sounds really useful and helpful, because I think, the process is often something we don't think too much about, but it is really important. It's how you convince people to change things. Norman, you have your hand up.
It's really a question about the previous item. Vaya mentioned UJA Panorama, which I hadn't heard of before, but looking at it now, it seems to be a component that fits into other LMSs. Is that something I should know about? Because I think the web page is quite salesy, and which makes it hard to understand what it actually does. Does it fit into things in the same way that, for example, Blackboard Ally does into Moodle, in terms of catching things and mumble?
David?
Well, if anybody wants to pick up on Norman's comment for this, because I was going back to the alt text.
Okay. Anyone got an answer for Norman? Vanya?
Yes, from experience, we use Canvas and UJA Panorama at the University of Birmingham, and UJA Panorama does a similar job to Ally Blackboard, I guess. Not that I have experience, but what we use it for is to get accessibility scores for the various modules and courses. It gives suggestions to people on how to improve accessibility. And also it has another component that produces alternative formats for the various documents in each module. So this is available to students and to staff, but mainly students use it to perhaps listen to a PowerPoint presentation instead of going through the visuals. So alternative formats for various teaching materials. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds as if it fits in the same way that
Blackboard Ally does and doesn't do very well at. That's very interesting. I'll think of someone to mention that to.
It would
Thank
be great to do comparisons. Yeah, that would be quite good, actually.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want to add to that?
I would like to add to that. We had a look at UJISC with a couple of Via's colleagues when they had just installed it, and Luke and I went through some of our issues with Ally and looked at what UJISC did, and we left that thinking, well, we thought Ally was bad, but UJISC was a lot worse from our point of view. But if I hear that the company in general are more a bit more customer friendly. So what Via said about them responding to that PDF bug sounds good, but I'm afraid I don't have any notes. I just remember as soon as we saw, we were like, oh yeah, this isn't the great white hope we were expecting. This is we'll stick with the devil we know for now until UJISC gets better. That was our view at the time anyway. That's about 6 months ago.
I'm assuming David still probably wants to talk about alt text, and does Sharon? Yeah, Sharon, are you following on from this?
I only have a question on their UJISC experience, so I can wait.
No, you go on.
No, go on.
Next.
Oh, do you happen to know if UJISC is able to capture seizure-causing issues like Ally is to the UJISC Panamora users? Thank you. That's my question.
If I can answer this question from my experience again, there is a list of all of the text that User Panorama does, and they have this publicly available. So that would be the best place to go and check. I haven't really come across this in terms of testing, so I cannot really comment.
Thank you.
Do you have a user question?
Not really. Maybe I should wait till the end. I have a question about this accessibility toolkits in general. I want to ask if anyone has used the one that Moodle provides, because we haven't activated, since Moodle is not our main VLE. We have a Ally on Blackboard, but I'm not dealing with Learn, so I don't really care so much. But also Moodle has it's another tool, which now our university closed all the other Moodle platforms, apart the ones that we have at the School of Mathematics, just to run the stack assessment system. But we decided not to go down to look for license on that. So I don't know if Moodle accessibility checker is better than the other.
Anyone? I know we used to have Brickfield here. Josh.
So we've got it in Bath. So it only works on content in the Moodle text editor. So it doesn't do anything for any uploaded files. So obviously, you know, how much teaching content is in there. So yeah. So it only looks at stuff in the text editor, so pages, activities, those sorts of things. So but in terms of like stat quizzes, it picks up things like non-descriptive links, if there's like no headings, if there's empty headings. It picks out like, well, we can talk about like automated checkers, but yeah, so it picks out some HTML easy, like automatically checkable issues. It gives some wizards to, so you know, for example, there's the old like B tag, so rather than strong, so there's some like semantic HTML tags you can easily fix. You can update like link text, you can add alt text. There's a wizard, so you can add some of this stuff. It still doesn't do a lot of things, so it will flag a lot of things. So like tables, the default ones you create using the tiny MCE, there's no header row. You have to kind of specify this, all this stuff. It will say there's an issue with this. There's no header row, but it doesn't like fix it for you. So it's kind of useful. I think you have to pay to have have any of the fixes, and the fixes are somewhat limited. But I'm happy to talk about that. Yeah, catch up separately if anyone's interested in Brickfield and Moodle.
Good.
Okay, thanks.
It would be interesting if maybe as a group we could also do the comparison with, because I know lots of places are thinking about potentially changing or going from Blackboard to something. So it might be good to have a kind of comparison of the 3 different systems. That would be, see if we can find some people to sit around and compare. Thomas.
Hi guys, I just so we're still with Brightspace, or we have Brightspace with Ali. But at the recent one in Birmingham, they talked about how Brightspace had built their own in-house one, and I was just wondering, has anybody had any experience, whether it's any good? I'm not a big fan of Brickfield, by the way, just thought I'd throw that in there, but then again, I'm not a fan of any of the other ones either, so it probably means no difference. But I'm just curious because our tender will be coming up in a year or two, and I'm just curious, and because I did ask them directly for a demonstration, which they reverted me to our IT department. And when I asked our IT department, they said, we shouldn't be looking while we're still in tender with someone else. And I was like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But so I guess my overall question is, has anybody seen the new Brightspace inbuilt accessibility tool?
No. But yeah, that's another one that would be good to have. So maybe I'll send out an email, and maybe if we could get a group of people together, we could do some kind of comparison. And there might be someone who's not here but is on the mailing list who's done some Brightfield stuff. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, so let us go back to alt text then. And David, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, just to comment on LaTeX side, we've put, well, firstly, that in PDF UA2, alt text isn't required on equations, and in the Acrobat implementation, if you put one, it blocks the MathML reading, so you actually get worse. You get a tick from Ali, but you get worse accessibility, usual kind of thing. But if you do need an alt text, if you're targeting UA1, LaTeX, also Word, of course, will generate them from the rather than having authors or editors add text that may or may not match the actual mathematics. So I just wanted to highlight that. So yeah, so certainly for LaTeX, where we're mostly targeting UA2 because the math support in UA2 is so much better. Alt text is on equations is obviously needed on images, not. It'd be nice to say it wasn't required, but actually with Acrobat taking the alt text rather than the MathML, it's actually a hindrance. So I wanted to flag that. Yeah, that's me.
Steph, do you have your hand up? Oh, I think you're muted.
Am I still muted? Am I okay
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, okay.
I could be showing my utter ignorance because I couldn't quite believe this when I tested it. And please, if I've got this wrong, someone correct me. But when I work on HTML basis, everything's being presented as web pages. When we use MathJax, we've got the MathML in there, and I cannot get it to read aloud correctly with a screen reader unless there's alt text in there. It'll read the alt text and then I get the correct, but when I try and get it to read aloud, I've had it just skipping things that the Greek letters don't read. I get it skipping the Greek letters. I get it.
When you say read
all
aloud,
sorts
is that
of things? Screen reader, using a screen reader.
But I mean, which one?
Sorry, I'm on Mac, VoiceOver.
Yeah, I thought when you said read aloud, I had a depressing feeling that you were going to say you on the Mac. It's not as good as it should be. What can I say?
I came to the conclusion that for screen reader accessibility, we had to have alt text as an option. Otherwise, we would not get the equations read correctly. I've been testing things and I've had F over lambda.
Frank's on a Mac. I'll defer to Frank because he's actually got a Mac.
Maybe 2 or 3 words here. VoiceOver, the accessibility chap from Apple is extremely proud of what accessible means, but they are actually not implementing it. So yes, in terms of MathML, it doesn't come through, and that's a problem. We will try to get after them, but we can only do that if we have a really good alternative to show them, hey, they can do it, which I hope now with Firefox and Chrome coming, that will get them notice that there's something actually missing in their implementation. So yes, at the moment, the problem is if you are on the Mac right now with VoiceOver, you're screwed. You have to have alt text because the MathML is just ignored. You just get the characters which are a basic ASCII, and the rest of the formula is not being seen. Yeah. And this is because they are not passing through the MathML. But as I said, I think we are now having a lot of momentum, and when the browsers are starting to accept the PDFs and actually look into them if they are tagged, and we get very good reading through the browsers, then VoiceOver, first of all, it might be that VoiceOver on top of a browser then works. That's something to see.
I've been using Chrome with VoiceOver. So I use a Mac because
yeah,
I use
Chrome doesn't do
MathML
either at the moment. That's a problem. If you have a PDF in there, it doesn't
But Frank,
work.
that's Chrome PDF.
Oh, that's the PDF. You're
no,
right.
I'm just looking at HTML.
In HTML,
so I'm looking at
work,
websites, HTML content. I cannot make it accessible, mathematical content, except via alt text. Even I've dug into examples that are supposed to be good examples from other people other than ourselves. They similarly, I cannot read them unless there's. So I did a whole lot of testing on this, and I couldn't quite believe my results because the whole point was that this was supposed to be accessible, and I couldn't make it work.
You will probably do better without the MathJax and just put the MathML directly in the page. But MathJax should work as well, I think. But I mean, mostly we don't use. We use direct MathML support.
What we can do is we can try to verify that again on HTML if you provide me something, and I'll try with the VoiceOver on my end.
I
meant David and myself, and then we can report back to you.
Yeah, it's something because this all started with we had some
jobs
articles
to do. That's fine. So
without good, we had some articles that I was testing, and I realised that the equations they read some of it and not others, as if those didn't exist, which of course completely changed the equation, which was kind of worse than it not telling you that it couldn't read it. It just felt horrible. So that took me down a whole rabbit hole of, well, how do we make this content accessible? And I found examples of good practice. And even then, the only way it read it properly was when there was typed out how to read this. You know, the alt text was typed into it. And that's why we've been looking at getting our authors and editors to actually type out how they want an equation to be read aloud so that it can be read correctly and we can be sure it's read correctly.
Yeah, but the problem,
it feels so clunky.
The problem with that is that if you talk to people who are using Braille, they are horrified by getting not a Braille character for the parentheses, but getting the word parentheses being spelled out in Braille. And that means that an equation which is four characters in Braille, or should be 4 characters in Math Braille, is suddenly becoming 1 or 2 lines. And
well, where we went was,
I think we really have to get the Apple
MathML
side to make that part work, because it is basic stuff. We should have MathML being read correctly. What they currently seem to read, according to what you say with the HTML. I mean, we are largely concerned with the PDF side. So I must confess that I haven't tested the HTML side very much, because LaTeX produces PDF. But the situation is really that VoiceOver is just looking at the basic characters, and everything else is being sort of ignored, and therefore you get formulas that you cannot comprehend at all. And that's true.
What would be a good way forward? Because obviously Apple's outside our control. I mean, we can pressure, but we can't do it. So the way I've been looking at it is the idea that we provide all the options and we let people select their own options. So we would provide an alt text option. We would provide it in the, I think it's, we write it as MathJax, it converts to ML in the, sorry, it's been a while since I dug into this. In the browser, it comes up as you get the interaction where you can dig into the equation. That's MathML, isn't it? So
yeah,
we provide the different options and basically allow users to choose which one they want.
That depends on what their tools are doing, and we have this unfortunate mess out there, as David said earlier. If you are on Acrobat, for example, then and there's alt text and MathML, then at the moment Acrobat is going to favor the MathML, not the MathML, but the alt text, which gives you a far less good reading or digging into compared to what you get when there would be just MathML with Acrobat. So it's not as easy as saying we're giving everything. We need to get the industry in the right direction, which currently is actually happening. I mean, this is the good part of it. I mean, I wouldn't say it's just because LaTeX suddenly produced PDF UA2, but effectively, the industry is starting to take notice, and it started with this little unknown browser, that not browser, PDF reader, Foxit, compared to the big players, but the big players are following too, and so I see some hope that we also get Apple on board once the others are actually showing that they're getting better results. And the problem with the alt text really and the Braille is severe. If you spell out every math formula, you get Braille text which is extremely long. And to my understanding, what people telling me there is this is not what they want. I mean, it's better than getting the rubbish which is currently produced. So in that sense, I fully understand if we have nothing else, then that's the only way we should we can proceed, because otherwise the stuff is not comprehensible at all. But it should not be the one that we favor or push for.
Anya, did you have something to add? Norman?
I only wanted to ask about the mention of Chrome by you, Steph. Is it a Chrome browser on a Mac?
Yes. So I'm a developer, so I test across the different browsers. Okay. But in terms of the screen reader, because I'm on Mac and because I use other accessibility software for myself, I use the VoiceOver because it's compatible with obviously the system I'm using.
Yeah. It's just my understanding, and I wanted to just double check that this is still the case, is that Chrome on a Mac uses WebKit, so it's not really the real Chromium browser. So maybe that's why you are seeing those bugs.
To be fair, I'm seeing them on all the browsers that I test, but then I am testing on Mac.
But yeah, on Mac, all the browsers are kind of changed versions. If I use WebKit and not the other browser engines, so that's why you are seeing those kind of differences to testing on PCs with Chromium, etc. So probably.
Can I just check then? If you were using, say, JAWS on a PC, would MathML actually be accessible to you? Is it purely a Mac issue?
I think it should work on the Mac. I think we need to see some examples. From HTML, from PDF, it's trickier. The maths is read better in no, from HTML, JAWS is fine. NVDA is fine on Windows. Yeah, for any browser from HTML. But it's best if you put the MathML in directly. MathJax is a wonderful amount, a totally amazing amount of JavaScript to render mathematics, but obviously for the accessibility you need MathML, and so obviously you've got more direct control, especially if you're the MathML editor, where you can actually change the spec if it doesn't work. You can just put the MathML directly on the page, is giving us the best control.
Yeah,
and of course it does render, of course, in any modern browser.
That's really interesting. Thank you. I will go back because our processes involve, articles come in and articles go through. They'll go through the typesetters. The typesetters will put them into XML, into JAT, and then the typeset article that comes in, that we have a templating system that then displays it as HTML. So that's done. There is no human typing in the MathML. That's done as an automatic conversion because the whole article is done out in the JATs. So if the only way to get this to work would be to do the MathML separate from that, that's adding in a whole new
No, and you wouldn't change.
I'm not sure that that's possible. Really.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I wasn't suggesting that you'd do anything. I'm not kind of a manual editing kind of person, so
no.
Maybe we should take this offline and it should work with MathJax. But I say mostly, I don't really know. I'm the editor of MathML, so I kind of tend to use MathML directly. But as you commented before, the MathJax is basically generating MathML on the fly in the browser anyway, so it should all work. It's just that there's more layers of indirection you have to manage. I mean, if I'm sending a bug report to Chrome that the MathML is not being read right, I just handwrite the MathML with whatever I want it to say, and then moan it doesn't get read right. Obviously, if you've got MathJax, you have to work out what a million lines of JavaScript is going to make as what you give it.
If the stuff is in XML, then it is probably at that stage already MathML, or how is that stored in? It sounds like it is going to MathJax to display that rather than being.
Yeah, but MathJax directly talks to the AT level. It doesn't send.
No,
it doesn't send the kind of MathML you would write.
That Steph was describing was that the articles are turned into XML, right? The question is, what is the math in that XML? Isn't that already MathML, and it's converted back to become an article to display to something else? So I wonder what's going on here.
I think that sounds very interesting and useful, but I
might.
Sorry.
I will come up with an example for a future discussion where we can actually dig into it. Perhaps
you can ping Frank and me directly.
But it's not going to be immediate because I'm in the middle of an audit. But yes, this is the direction of travel. Thank you. Very interesting.
Norman.
I think we'll just a quite quick thing. On the tail end of that, when Frank was describing the problems, was discussing the problems that Steph was having with MathML in HTML, I sort of got the impression that VoiceOver's behavior might be different when it was reading HTML and PDF. Is that correct, or did I misunderstand?
Yeah, you're doomed with PDF.
Currently. Okay. Even when it has the MathML in it.
Yeah.
Not just that, but VoiceOver on Mac is different to VoiceOver on iOS, and we're finding more and more people are accessing through phones and iPads, and they don't seem to do the same thing. They seem to read differently. And if you do read screen instead of full VoiceOver, that again interprets differently. So there's a
useful. As everything.
Sorry, we took over your meeting, Claudia.
No, it's. I think that was a useful discussion. That wasn't kind of the element of alt text I was thinking, but I think it was alt text, useful alt text discussion. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up? Couple of updates from me. I have the website's been redone slightly, the kind of front half of it. So there is now an FAQs for new people. And as I said, I'm going to work on the demos bit next. There was something else I had to ask. Yes, me and Matt in January had a meeting with JISC, which was quite helpful, and we're going to hope to get them to come to a future meeting. So that might be next time or the time after, see how dates line up. Good. If that's anything else, maybe we should invite Apple to come along. Does anyone have any contacts with Apple? If people know someone from Apple to come along, I'm happy to invite them. But yes, good. Okay, if no one has anything else to add, thank you all for coming. And I will send out an email briefly. That was the other thing I wanted to mention. Sorry. There is a members directory, and this is a good point for Steph's. There's a members directory on the website that's a bit out of date, so I will send out a link to a form. But if you would like to be put on this, it's just essentially somewhere people can go and say, we're working on this. If you want to come chat, hi, I'm here, which is a useful thing for kind of this networking side. So I will share the link to the website, and if you want to be added to the members director, please do drop me a line or just a single line biography type thing. Excellent. Okay, I will see you all next time then. Thank you all for coming. Hope you have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.